Welcome back to the black metal party that never stops. I am your host, the Slayer of Posers, Master of Disaster, the Joan Rivers of black metal, the Necrosexual. And our guest, where do we begin with our guest tonight? Well, for one thing, he is an illustrious death metal vocalist who put out 2 killer records in 2020, Battle Master, and of course, Loud Night, which we'll be talking about on this show. And he's also goes by the name of DJ Die Hard, and you can listen to his little radio show, A Very Chrome Companion. And we'll talk about that as well. So we'll be spinning hits and taking the heavy metal bong rips, figuratively, with my guest, Andy Horn. Andy, how the hell are you, baby?
Cheers, buddy. How's it going, pal?
I feel grim. The most cult backdrop of any guest so far. So I applaud your totally brutal Battle Master. It looks like it was made with a bed sheet and spray paint in true cult fashion. So thank you for looking the part.
It's a drop cloth for a real blue collar black metal freak like myself. And just because this pandemic turned out that our backdrop was free for tonight, we didn't have to use it for any live gigs. So figured I'd use it for this.
This is one-on-one with the Grim Ones. That means that every episode, our guest selects one album that holds a special place in their heart. So give it to me, Andy. What album have you selected to curate in this discussion?
Ooh, it's a real barn burner, but it might not be a huge head turner for a lot of people. It might be a big upset, but I am a huge fucking fan of Summoning. And if I had to pick just one album, which I guess I got to do tonight, I would have to go with 2001 Let Mortal Heroes Sing of Your Fame. It's a killer album. It's nonstop. It's just pummeling. I love it. It gets me in the mood. It is one of my favorite fantasy metal records of all time. It's probably one of the best fantasy metal records of all time. And it marches to the beat of its own drummer. It is wild. I love it.
Now, is it marching to the beat of its own drummer, or is it a drum machine on that record?
I think it's a little bit of both.
Yeah.
I feel like I've read somewhere that one of the two, it's a two-piece, and or at least it was after the first record. And one of them is like studied drums for a long time or something in college. I don't know what they do over there in Austria, but whatever they're doing, it's good. He definitely it's got some interesting takes on percussion in a metal setting for sure.
Take us back to the first time you laid your ears on the Summoning record.
Well, I guess I would have to take you then back to, I don't know, I don't want to date myself here, so I'll just say my age. Probably like 16 or 17, when I was a young fledgling and fully immersed in the midst of my extreme metal underground initiation. And, you sort through catalogs of records as one is wont to do back then, and you look at all the names and the descriptions, and you try to seek these things out and see what floats your boat, give it a shot, go to the record store, pick it up with whatever scratch you have. And I remember my friend was making mixtapes and came up with a black metal mixtape for me. It was a bunch of like Viking and pagan kind of stuff. It's like not really not super wild about a lot of that stuff. But, amidst the Falkenbach and the Windeer and all that, there was some Summoning on there, and that lit me up. I was like, wow, this is something else. But I don't think it was until maybe I was like 19 or 20 that I fully like delved all the way in and started celebrating their entire catalog. The whole thing rules. It's all great. It's pretty much all completely bizarre fantasy, like kind of almost like soundtrack meets black metal, except for the first record, which is more like a traditional black metal record. Even though it's like not as keyboard heavy like the other ones, it's still pretty weird though. It's got a lot of like weird drums and far out bass lines and stuff. It's pretty weird stuff. But yeah, I got into it back then, and I dug it out for the interview here. This is my first leather jacket that I painted when I was 18. I've got my Summoning Lugbers leather jacket. I mean, this thing is huge too. This the sight back then. I was rocking this thing. It was like I was probably half the size I am now. So you
Wow.
know I look like a true freak when I was at a gig.
What was it about that album that really stuck its hooks in you and that remains a classic to this day in your ears?
Let Mortal Heroes Sing of Your Fame. The record in particular is the first one where they kind of had a mixture of, you know, the keyboard driven to the maximum, a lot of weird drums, like it's not sculpted like a normal black metal track there with the drumming. And then you also get this a little bit of like this, like it's almost like sample singing, like they sample in vocals from like old Lord of the Rings radio broadcasts, and they make them all click so the songs just like build up. And they can be a little whimsy. There's a lot of whimsy, a lot of eleganza in there, but then they generally every song clicks and they bring the hammer down with like a sound sample of a voice. Usually it's like a wizard, like Gandalf or Saruman, you know, and then the song just kicks in and this super heavy, you know, rhythmic medieval kind of Renaissance fair shit kicks in, and then you're like fully immersed in it. And if that doesn't hit you like right in the whatever cortex that fantasy metal is supposed to hit, if it doesn't hit you there, then you're never gonna get it. It's not for you.
Yeah, we're not in Middle Earth anymore, baby. You've gone beyond the realms
This
of
isn't
mortal
for
men.
like just like your average run of the mill thrasher kid, you know, like into metal for a couple of years, whatever. This is for like true diehards that really do appreciate some extreme metal. And I wouldn't recommend this for like, you know, family that's not into metal or friends that are just like casually into metal. This is for real diehards.
Real ones only. Posers warning.
Yeah.
The keyboards and synthesizers that throughout that whole album, there was like a period in the late 90s and like early 2000s around that time that the record came out where there was that very specific like subgenre of symphonic black metal where all the keyboards kind of sound like it's from a 90s Japanese role-playing video game that you would play on PC.
Yeah, and a lot of it just completely sucks. I mean, generally, I'm of the opinion like no synth wimps, synthesizers can fight it. They have a time and a place that are great, you know, when they're used properly. But generally in metal, I don't really like synths. But Summoning is all synths, and I love it. I love it. I can't get enough of it.
Indeed. And while we're on this topic, I got to ask you if you've heard of this band, because shout out to Curator of War from Pan American Native Front who told me about these guys. But they were from Italy and their name was Nazgul.
Oh, yeah. Nazgul Fools, dude. That is another small exception for me, is I'm a huge fan of their the big full-length Expungation Elfmuth. It's relentless. It's completely savage vocals. I mean, it's one of a kind. I love it. I think that's another duo, just two Italian fellas that do that. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot of Nazgul bands. But this Nazgul that we're talking about, that band is sick.
And of course, all the lyrics are in Latin about Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, they're in Latin, but they're from the perspective of orcs, which use dark speech. I don't know where that came from, but it's cool.
It seems like you know your mystical fantasy lore. So are you also a fantasy head yourself?
Yeah. I've always been really into fantasy, phantasmagorical things, all manner of role-playing games. I really got into Dungeons and Dragons when I was in elementary school and played it throughout middle school and high school. And a variety of other role-playing games kind of carried me into adulthood, like, you know, some sci-fi stuff like Rifts. I really dug that game Rifts a lot. But yeah, Dungeons and Dragons rules. I mean, it's obviously the main impetus behind a lot of the Battle Master subject matter. You know, generally the songs are just about the evil perspective of you know, a D&D kind of fantasy realm. A lot of like vibes from like Forgotten Realms and playing you know, everything from Greyhawk through Spelljammer, all that stuff. Definitely a big D&D influence. And of course we touch on many aspects of several bestiaries that are included in those role-playing games. So yeah, definitely a huge influence on me as fantasy role-playing games.
In your new Battlemaster album, the 3Gs, Ghastly Graven and Grimoireless, one of the Necrosexual's top albums of 2020, a hellacious black challenge that you guys have laid down. So what was it like going in the studio recording this record in 2020? Take us back last year.
Yeah, it was cool. We recorded it in different pieces, and when my part came along, we actually recorded it in this like weird studio that doesn't do metal. We recorded with a good friend, David Waltenbow, and we recorded in a studio that actually was like it's like an ad agency studio. So I recorded the vocals where they recorded the sound for, like, you remember those caveman car commercials for the car insurance?
Fucking
like,
Geico.
Like, so easy, yeah, so easy a caveman could do it. Yeah, they recorded all that. So we're same studio, same exact studio. Yeah, pretty amazing. I mean, that you could feel the energy in there when I was recording. It was something else.
That caveman energy.
Oh yeah, people talk about caveman riffs. I mean, this was like that's like channel the caveman vocals for sure.
But what was your creative choice for going in a place that was different than what you're normally used to with metalheads?
I pretty much just like I smoked a ton of weed and just let my brain take the reins. Creative wise, like, I mean, I don't even really remember a lot of it. So I guess that's kind of an answer. It might not be the one you're looking for, but definitely the creative brains were taken by substance, and I just let the weed do the thinking.
Rock and roll, the best albums are the ones you might not remember making, and that just goes to prove my point. You also played bass and did vocals in Loud Night, who also put out one hell of a mesmerizing record in 2020. So tell us about Loud Night, because in that band you've gone into a speed metal, heavy metal, sleazy rock territory, and it fucking rules.
Thanks. Yeah, thanks. It's definitely more of a Motorhead vibe. We're not singing about any sort of evil wizards or anything like that in that band. But yeah, we play bass and singing it. It's with a lot of good old friends of mine. We've been around for about 2, maybe 3 years, and we released our first full length after demos. First full length came out this year, or 2020, last year, I guess. But it's called Mind Numbing Pleasure, and you can get it through a local record label from Richmond, Virginia, where we live. It's called Vinyl Conflict Records, and they have a brick and mortar record store too that really kicks ass. But yeah, Bobby from Vinyl Conflict put out the record, and we're in the midst of our 3rd pressing already, and it should be available through Ripping Storm Records in Italy in a couple months, as soon as it gets back from the pressing plant. So we'll have a European press available soon for Loud Night. Still no European press yet for the Battlemaster record, but we do have another bun in the oven, so to speak, after the Ghastly Graven Grimoireless record that you so graciously put on your top list from last year. So we're just putting the finishing touches on a brand new record, full length again. It should be 11 tracks, and hopefully we'll get some European distribution for that one too, but we'll definitely have it available on 12-inch in the States.
Wow, the hits keep on coming.
Yeah, gotta do it. Gotta do it.
That's a pleasant surprise to hear. And so with Loud Night, I didn't realize you were also a bass player after handling bass and vocal duties.
Yeah, I'm not really. I can't play bass, but I play it in that band. So
yeah,
I'm holding it down.
Rock and roll, baby. Hey, if Tom Araya could be the frontman of Slayer
exactly,
and play every Slayer song, just do an open E, anybody can play bass.
Yeah, exactly.
Those are just a few of your bands, but in the past, you've also been at the helm of Cannabis Corpse, speaking of getting high, Skeleton Witch Live, and then one of the favorite bands I ever saw live at the Boot and Saddle in Philadelphia, where you could say we were stripped for parts, Organ Donor.
Hell yeah. Yeah. I actually, I used to play in Cannabis Corpse for the first 4 records with my best friend, Nick Polis. And then he and I had left that band, quit some years ago. I don't know, maybe like 7. I can't remember how many at this point. But then afterwards, we started Organ Donor shortly after that to keep doing a death metal band together. And we only really got a demo tape out of Organ Donor, but it's still was a lot of fun, and we have a lot of other songs we didn't use on the back burner. He and I always talk about doing something in the future, death metal wise, together. So that may be something on the horizon eventually. But yeah, and Skeleton Witch, that was a lot of fun. I get to fill in when they were between singers. Did a European tour with them, and they're great guys, amazing band. I'm actually drinking at the one reward I got for playing in Skeleton Witch said, "Hey Andy, thank you. Here's a Skeleton Witch glass." So I just drinking my beer out of the Skeleton Witch glass. This is my payment for the 2 months that I played with them.
Pint glass for being on the road for 2 months with Skeleton Witch.
Yep.
Making that black metal money.
It's all good. It's all good. They're old friends, and we actually Battlemaster's been around for like 15 years. We started. I can't do math. I guess 18 years is when we started, because we started in 2003, and maybe our first time we ever met Skeleton Witch was maybe like 2007 or 5. I don't know, one of those things. But when they were touring on their demo, we met each other and we played a couple of gigs together. So we had known each other for a while, and they were like, "Shit, we don't have a singer right now. We need somebody like with like a month's notice." And they're like, "Get on the horn and call Andy Horn. He'll do it. He'll do anything." And I did, and I will. And yeah, it was a lot of fun.
No job too brutal for the horn master. Tell me about the moment where you decided you wanted to be a heavy metal lifer.
Huh. I don't think I really had any choice. I got kind of cornered into it by, I think it'd be easier if I just answered by telling you when metal first clicked in my brain. Because, if you really do appreciate metal, there's a moment where it just like clicks in, and you kind of, like when you take too much acid and then you do the long blink and you're like reprogramming yourself. It's kind of like that, And the first time I really like truly heard metal and it opened up my ears and mind was there must have been like 7 or 8 years old, and my mom was like, "Hey, go get your older brother for dinner." And at that point he was maybe 16, 17, and he was like your typical like football jock dude that was like, I mean, he was cool, but he did a lot of weightlifting, and he was a pissed off teenager. And so I always hated getting him for dinner, and I had to go upstairs, and I was all shy, and I was like looking around the corner of his door, and he was like in his room, like lifting weights, listening to Master of Puppets really loud, and it was like, dun, 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 and I was like, and he just saw me spying, and he was like, "What the fuck's wrong with you? What?" And I was like, "Mom says dinner's ready," and he's like, "Shut up! I'll be there soon." And I was like, but the music was hitting, and I was like, this is crazy. So like, I think it was like a day later, I like snuck into his room after thinking about it for a full day, and like stole the tape and was like, "All right, I got to listen to this on my own." And I had it like in my room, like really quiet, was like listening to it. That's when I first heard metal, I guess. Master Puppet.
Your brother sounds like the quintessential mean big brother that's in like every movie or TV show. Like lifting weights. I wouldn't
be here without him.
Yeah. So as you grew older, because I'm an only child, because being a black metalhead is extra cold if you're a lonely only child. So I'm always curious about people's relationships with their siblings. So as you grew older, did you become like closer heavy metal brothers with your brother, or was it like a sibling rivalry?
Yeah, sort of. I mean, they both owned Metallica records, but they were never really metalheads. I get along with both of them just fine. One of them ended up like later down the road, we found a Dixie Chicks CD in his CD book, which is really weird. So that was took a couple of years to kind of smooth that one over. But the brother that is in the story, he's always kept a couple of metal records here and there, and he's really big into like just kind of cool music, like stuff that I whether it's country or rock or whatever. He's always into stuff that I find is cool. And yeah, we keep in touch about music a lot. They're both big fans of the bands I play in, and they come visit whenever I'm in their state on tour. So
what do you think makes the perfect death metal song?
What makes it? Oh boy, I don't know. I think, well, you definitely gotta have aggression, and you definitely have to have something that's like bludgeoning. It doesn't have to be like caveman necessarily, but you're not death metal to me is less about like slashing or piercing, unless suffocation, of course, pierce from within. It's more about bludgeoning. When you get back into like role-playing games, you have different types of weapons, and there's the piercing, the slashing, and bludgeoning would be death metal type of weapon. So I think that you got to have aggression, you got to be bludgeoning, you got to have some scruff to your vocals. You can't just be doing death metal with a yelling kind of thing. I think that's sometimes people try to get away with that. It's not the same. You got to have a lot of scruff in there. And I would say probably subject matter doesn't have to be like, kill your mother, rape your dog kind of lyrics, but it should be something that's pretty, obtrusive, deadly, lethal, belligerent. You don't want to have you can stray a little bit, but you don't want to have full albums about philosophy and shit like that. I mean, unless you're deaf, and then even then, that's like pretty bizarre lyrically, but it's not for everybody. And I think you get all those components together, you're certainly going to make death metal if you shake those things around.
Yeah. And you mentioned Dungeons and Dragons, so I have to know, what is your character class that you play as when you're doing a D&D campaign?
Wow. So it has been quite a while. I did do I guess my longest played character was a human cleric. That was in high school when I did like a long campaign. But like I was telling you, I haven't been able to do pen and paper campaign in a long time. But I did for this special meeting. I busted out some of my old artifacts for you.
Oh shit!
Let's see here. We got the first edition player's handbook. We got our first edition DMG.
Wow.
We got a couple of my favorite modules here. Some good ones. And then this one, I'm afraid you're gonna have to back off the computer screen a little bit, Necrosexual. I don't want you, try not to breathe on this or touch or anything, right? But here's the some of the original pre-first edition.
Wow.
Dragon stuff. So yeah.
Pre-first edition. It's like
I would just throw those out. They're fun to look at, it's fun conversation pieces. Just want to throw that ones out there.
That is pretty cult. That's actually funny for me because I don't play Dungeons and Dragons, but I know a lot of friends who do. So I gotta put something in there to sate their dorky appetites, and I hope they enjoy a lot of bards. I got friends with a lot of bards. I think it's something about metalheads and bards, maybe because they play music.
I only played a little bit with somebody playing a bard, and that shit's got to go. They're like, that's cool role playing. I love doing role playing in the game, and like getting into character. But this dude was such a pain in the ass. He was a Punisher. And it was just like trying to sing and do all this stupid shit. And it was like his whole like personality sucked. Fuck a bard.
+5 punishment from the bard. Debuff. Ooh, that's pretty funny. Fucking bards, am I right? And one other thing. So you've been in the scene for a long time, Andy, and it's easy to look at all the great shows where you played 6 shows and had mosh pits and killer crowd turnouts. But I want to know, what was one time where you went out there and was like, what's the fucking point?
What's it like a time that I went out and played a gig and was like, what am I even doing with my life?
Yes. Yeah.
Every gig, dude. Yeah. It's totally, you got to be bonkers to be, a metal fan or in a metal band or listening to metal records all the time. I mean, we're in like company. Every day that I wake up, I'm like, what the fuck am I doing here? But I mean, what's anybody doing here? It's basically just I'm programmed to do this. So are the rest of the guys in Battle Master. There's no other hope for us. There's nothing else to do. Not that this is a hope or anything, but I mean, like, this is like what we want to do, what we love doing, and what we were made to do. So, I mean, it doesn't bother me when I think about that, but yeah, every day is the answer.
Well, I wish you many battles ahead and a lot of loud nights too, filled with mind-numbing pleasure.
Thank you.
Andy, where can the heavy metal freaks of the world tune in to listen to more songs from you?
Yeah, so we got the Battle Master record you're talking about. We got that available. Just a couple more copies are available through Bandcamp or through the record label, which is Forcefield Records. You can find them. I think it's forcefieldrecords.com or .org. You search Google Forcefield Records or Battle Master, and we have it on Bandcamp. We've got a bunch of shirts and stuff too. And the new record, we'll be posting a song from that here in probably like a month or two. But yeah, you can get all that stuff online from us. And yeah, did you have another question? Yeah, Loud Night has a page too. You can go to loudnight.com, get that mind-numbing pleasure record you were talking about. And as far as my radio show goes, I do a 2-hour hardcore punk metal freak radio show. It's usually thematic, and it's 2 hours every Friday night from 10 to midnight Eastern Standard Time. It airs in Richmond on the radio on 103.3 if you're in Richmond, Virginia. Otherwise, you can listen to it through their website. It's bridge1033.org. And the show, again, is called A Buried Chrome Companion, kind of like a Prairie Home Companion, if you fuck with Garrison Keillor, Lake Wobegon. And if you don't want to tune in on Friday nights, or you can't, or whatever, you can listen to all of them. They're all archived on djdiehard.net. So you can check all that shit out on the internet, like usual.
DJ Diehard. Listen to him. Get your dose of chrome straight to your dome.
Absolutely.
Yeah, baby.
Oh yeah, here's the rip-off shirt from the old slip disc. Old New York record store slip disc, the DJ Diehard shirt. Heavy metal headaches, baby.
It may have many heavy metal hangovers.
I can neither confirm nor deny, but there's a guy, a lot of people have been confusing me with this fellow named Norman, newer death metal band called Crossspitter. I'm not him, but Crossspitter fucking rules. Check out Crossspitter if you love really grisly death metal.
This has been another transmission from the dark side with the Necrosexual. And I want to know, what would you like to say to all the perverts who are out there watching, Andy?
Fuck you!
Ding, ding, ding. Correct answer.